Hello and welcome to the second volume for Bruce Willis for the Good, the Bad and the What the Fucks. Now I am recording this just after I've recorded the podcast for The Fifth Element, and I am positive I'm loaded with COVID. Finally got us. So I'm going to try and do this quite quickly. I remember, to Dan from Slaunch TV, hiya Dan. We're just talking about Corey Haim movies there. So off that rant, that's it. I'm just waiting for a file to transfer as well. Fifth Element, I remember in '95 going to New Zealand and just seeing London Undergrounds and just wall to wall, just where you're waiting for the tube. Fifth Element, and like big fan of Bruce Willis. We talked about this a lot, and it's a great one for the start. This one, it's going to open the wormhole for stuff like Cosmic Sin and hopefully Hudson Hawk and stuff. Calm down. What's he want? Sorry. These are my videos. I'm still getting used to an Apple phone. I've just shrunk the screen. What's it Dan doing? So badass. So yeah, just having a quick chat with it, Dan. Right. So remember the hype for Fifth Element, and again I completely missed it with being in New Zealand. New Zealand was ahead but then behind certain films. The massive range they would have in the video shops was mind blowing, especially when we're just talking there about Corey Haim, Corey Feldman movies. New Zealand would have the full range. First time I ever seen a movie like Watches and stuff. So I missed Fifth Element, and obviously I couldn't wait. So the hype was real for me, Fifth Element, and just remember me blown away. Bruce Willis at this point, you know, the era of 12 Monkeys, Die Hard with a Vengeance, you know, he was just this massive peak. Do you know what I mean? He had a streamlined Armageddon, then, you know, Sixth Sense, you know, he just kept going. Luc Besson had just done The Professional, also known as Leon in England. Brings his entire kind of team with him because Eric Sara comes along. I own The Fifth Element on vinyl. I love the score. I love Eric Sara's music. The only one I don't have of his scores are GoldenEye, which they haven't released on vinyl. Even if they released GoldenEye for the N64, I would still buy it. Mark Mancina was actually involved in the score as well. His name popped up with the credits at the end, which I was like, Mark Mancina! Like, his shit is just not available or anywhere to be found. So, as I just try to multitask by sending some files across, me and Carl's just done the podcast there, so I've took a lot of experience in there. Visually, it looks stunning. From like now, looking at it on Blu-ray, the special effects have showed up, looked alright. Milo Volokovich is in this from Cuffs. It's a bit of an ensemble cast. You've got Chris Tucker in there, but you've also got Tiny Thomas. I've got loads of fucking names. Zeus, you know, Tiny Lister, you know, obviously Debo from Friday as well. You've got one of the guys from Blade Runner, I can't remember his name off the top of your head. There's a lot of Blade Runner influence on there. Ian Holm from Alien, Gary Oldman from obviously Leon as well. So there's a lot of that, but obviously it's filmed in Pinewood, so it kind of screams American, but it's also, you know, packaged in between. It's the you know, it's very French as well in there. So yeah, as me and Carl's discussed tonight on the podcast, it essentially was written as a trilogy, but then crammed into one fucking canon. Open, there you go. Because it doesn't go 100 miles an hour. It sort of just mows along. There's a lot of stuff left in there if you're looking at it as that. But we just, one of the things I said to Carl when we finished the podcast is, if you were trying to tell somebody, look, sci-fi is awesome, and you had 5 films of fucking die-hard sci-fi where you would just run off the top of your head what you would say, Blade Runner being probably one of the godsends of sci-fi, and you had 5 films where you go, there's easy watching, something for everyone, enjoy sci-fi, enjoy the beyond, because I said to Carl, when you talk about sci-fi in the future, it's a blank canvas. You can come up with what the fuck you want. You know what I mean? No film in sci-fi is 100% accurate, is it? Like, dates are now wrong. I mean, we've lived past it. It's one of these graphs going around on the internet where you go like, we're here, and it's got the timeline, and you just look at all the films we've surpassed in like spaceships. I mean, I don't believe we landed on the moon. I mean, if we did now, fucking Google would have a fucking camera on there, wouldn't they? What's the dark side of the moon? What looks behind the moon? Conspiracy. But anyway, off that rant. I think with it as well, it's very colourful, it's got a lot of style, it's got a very fashion sense as well. I think Chris Tucker is amazing, but there's a lot of fucking sexual innuendos. I mean, Mila Milokovic's boobs are out, there's a few sexual scenes in it, a lot of references. Big fans of Red Dwarf as the commanders in it, as also as a lot of spoofs, fish, not just Danny John Jules going fish and he keeps getting fish. Bill Lister just completely clusterfucks the microwave with all the sauces, presses the button and here comes a fucking 3-course fucking Sunday meal. There's loads of bits and bobs in there. It's very offbeat as well, especially with the car chase at the start where I was meant to wear my Corbin Dallas t-shirt for Corbin Dallas's Taxis, but it's still a t-shirt I'm going to have to wash. I always wear that, so I'm a big fan of Fifth Element. I think it's definitely a good film. As I say, it's held up. So again, for Bruce Willis, if you look at his career and you go, this is definitely a high point of Bruce Willis. It's, at that point he hadn't done much sci-fi, but again, I've talked in the last one where the same year, I think he lent his likeness to a video game. And obviously there was a Fifth Element video game, and PlayStation was huge. The element of discs was around at that time as well. And it was creeping. DVD was creeping. It wasn't there yet, but Laserdisc opened the door. Now the biggest thing about Fifth Element, if you go past this, I love the soundtrack. I've got the VHS. It was an ongoing joke for a long time about where my VHS was, because it was in one of the brick towers, especially at the back at the bottom. The release of the Steelbook, and it was Z to the Eye exclusive, and Carl had got us it, and fuck me, what a letdown, because Fifth Element wasn't available for ages, and then it was released as the 4K transfer, and just no new additional fucking content. Again, I talked about this when I went to New Zealand in 95. Total Film had just become a thing. Mel Gibson on the front cover of Ransom, and you had Nicolas Cage, Con Air was coming out, and the way Total Film presented itself, you opened it up and had the films coming soon. I mean, as I said in the podcast, as soon as the fucking thing's printed now, it's out of date. The media, social media, it's impressive that Total Film and Empire are both still going. And I know they do the digital formats, but as I said, I just remember reading the hype was fucking real and stuff like that. And sorry, I just got a message, completely lost my trail of thought. Where am I going? I got COVID, not long term memory short. But as I say, I remember being there and loving the elements, and just Total Film, it totally shifted and changed and were not very relevant to me personally, but as I say, with Fifth Element, it's a total good movie. And again, I am poorly, but this is a what the fuck moment for me, actually. Fuck me, now that screen's going to shut, the DVD's closing from the podcast. But yeah, if you're watching this, there is a podcast. Me and Carl go into a lot deeply about it, but for Bruce Willis, he was just everywhere at that time. And yeah, I watched this back and be like, fuck me, where were you going? There might even be an outtake, I'll continue that story. Oh, my phone just won't fucking stop. Oh my god. Right, hopefully, I might even do one of these tomorrow, because Carl wants to do another podcast. So there might be another entry into this. But as it comes to Bruce Willis, it's definitely a good movie. As I say, I've just been ranting for 2 hours randomly with COVID. Great. But this is Bruce Willis, Volume 2, for the good, the bad, and the what the fucks, and this has been Fifth Element. Next part of the video, before I forget what I'm fucking talking about again. Hello, and welcome back to the good, the bad, and the what the fucks. Film 2 for Bruce Willis, rocking the hat, which I don't wear much these days, but it always makes me feel a bit like Hudson Hawk. My head is way too big for it now. So I'm still positive for COVID. It was last night, I did the Fifth Element, and by the end of it I was knackered after that podcast and the rant, and I lay in bed last night and go, where was I going with that? Because I never really get sidetracked. I never really do alternative takes or anything like that. And I was like, right, what am I gonna watch? My body's aching. And I decided to watch Hudson Hawk. Now, Hudson Hawk to me is one of Bruce Willis's best films, and I was meant to have the vinyl Bruno Sings Again in My Hand, because this is the era when Bruce Willis was doing sing-alongs and that like that. Now Signature One is a label that's still going, recently released The Fan. So Signature One have released some films I really enjoy. They are a bit weird when it comes to releases though. I mean, they are still rocking DVD and Blu-ray in a box and double side print them. For some reason, not like an alternative artwork. Hudson Hawk's always had some very strange artwork. Bruce Willis, he's like, okay Yogi, look at the front, which is on there, was on most of the posters and normally has the Flying Da Vinci contraption behind him. Or Bruce Willis swinging, I was swinging on the star, but then, you know, the catch the hawk, Hudson Hawk, you know what I mean? It's very like, I mean, you've got to remember, this is a Joel Silver movie, and this is like just after the Die Hards, or around the Die Hard time, I think it's after Die Hard 2. And it's one of the ones where, you know, Bruce Willis couldn't do no wrong, you know what I mean? He's peaked. Like Die Hard was a fucking hit. Die Hard 2 is bigger. He was in a couple of films like Death Becomes Her around this time. I'm sure he did one with his wife at the time, Debbie Moore, and Mortal Summit. Obviously he popped up the Twilight Zone and stuff like that, but like this is where he's hyped. This is, I mean, I remember seeing this as a kid, and when you discover Bruce Willis and you fucking go, how cool is Die Hard 2, this time before Die Hard 3 was even made, hence the hype of like, oh my god, Die Hard 3. So I remember seeing Hudson Hawk, and it's one of the ones where, you know, it was named and shamed. A lot of people didn't like it, and the company actually has a recent company track by the director, and he goes, you know what I mean, some people say it bombed, some people say it didn't. I fucking love the movie. I think it's so unique, you know what I mean. It's got this old school like Rat Pack style with the music cues. Especially Bruce Willis' style. The ensemble cast as well, there's a lot of people got breakout roles in this. I mean, Bruce Willis is a star with Andy McDowell. Richard E. Grant's in this, is a very young role coming off the back end with Neil and I. When I met Richard E. Grant, I said I love Hudson Hawk, and he went, not many people do. And I mean, I don't think you realise how tall Richard E. Grant is, and that's my size saying that to him. I worked on the Chemist music video, This City, which we filmed down in the Fish Tank in Manchester, which happened to be the same building I actually filmed music videos for ISO. And then the bigger one out of the bunch was Obsessive Compulsive. So like, it's been there down the channel before. I keep ending up with the Big Fish. Been to Manchester a few times and always end up with the Big Fish. But yeah, we shot the music video there in the basement, and then there's like, if you watch the video, it's all about like trying to disconnect, and Richard E. Grant's running around, and he's constantly got this wire stuck to his back, and he's trying to unplug it. They spent a lot of money, the band, on CGI, and to be honest with you, I think what happened is, I think they replaced the singer. I mean, they turned on this massive bus, like wow. So yeah, got to work on that with Mark McQueen, who is just an absolute legend. He now does Top Gear. It's just fucking crazy. You look at like a fork in the road, you're like, fucking hell. But yeah, Richard, if you watch the video, I mean, I am in the video bits about, and it was really cool to shoot some of the band footage with Mark, but there's definitely a clip of like Mark when I'm like highlighting my life, that, and Mark just covers this at this fucking smoke machine. But yeah, I just remember meeting Richard E. Grant and going, I love Hudson Hawk, and he's like, you know, he's got that look, hasn't he, like twists his fucking head. Anyway, Danny or Annie, or what do you want to call him, that's a fucking mouthful there. He's in there. James Corbin's in there, who, you know what I mean, he plays it. Like Snickers and Kit Kat, the guy who plays Kit Kat went on to be pretty famous. David I don't know, he was in CSI Miami, he was recently in The Kiss of Death, where you look at the back, the What the Fuck series. Frank Stallone is in this, and obviously I didn't realise Stallone had a brother at that time, and Frank's very random if you follow him on Instagram, but he's great in it. Once you realise it's Stallone's brother, you go, oh fucking hell, why did you not see that? Honest to God, man. So watching it, you know, it starts off and like, you've got Da Vinci, and like it just screams huge production, and like it's filmed in Italy. They used a lot of like sets from older films, like the foot. Why is the random foot there? Well, it was there, you know. And then they're just the guy who does the Rocky and Bullwinkle voice. He's just like the guy in the donkey. He's just a guy in a donkey, and it's just like, well, you know what you're fucking in for. So yeah, you get the setup about like the mysteries of the crystal thing, which never made much sense when you look at it like Workhuse, and then you look at like There's a lot of backstory chopped out of it. At one point, I think Hudson has a little monkey called Eddie, which at the very end, when Corbin goes over the bridge on the car, there's a picture. If you freeze frame it, he slaps the fucking monkey's picture, and it makes no sense. But if he slaps this picture monkey on, it's like it's a plot story just completely lost, and I don't even think it ends up on the bonus features, so it looks like it's just something that's been lost on the cutting room floor. This does have the story of Hudson Hawk on it. I maybe should have watched that before watching this, but this is my general love for the movie. As I say, it's fucking bonkers. It starts off, he gets out of prison, you can see he's one of the greatest cat burglars, very quick of hand, gets picked up. There's an ongoing joke right from the start. Then he gets picked up in the car, them trying to have a cappuccino, and every time he tries to get one, all the way through it, something happens. So that's an ongoing joke, and then it sets up the robbery. You just feel for the guy who gets hit in the fucking head with a fucking glass bottle. It's such a great gag, it's such a great prop and a great sound effect and great reactions by everyone involved in that scene. Like, as a kid, I was like, fuck me, you know what I mean? Like, don't hit anyone with a bottle. I mean, I've seen people try to bottle people in nightclubs, and I don't know, is it in Steve-O's video, the Don't Try This Home, where they're trying to bottle the guy and he's got whelps on his head, and you're like, fuck me, man. Anyway, off that ride. Yeah, he gets forced into basically robbing this bank, and then the music cue starts and swinging on the star, and it's just it's just got some funk to it, and it is what it is, and it's funny. And then the bit where they jump off the building, you just know what you're in for, because Bruce Willis and Danny jump off, and then all of a sudden Bruce Willis just lands in the chair in the room to the next scene without Danny, and it's just like, what the fuck? And he goes, well, it's just a fucking movie. And a lot of people are like, what the fuck? And they're like, it's brilliant. And then not long after that, we have the whole fucking ambulance chase, which I think is geniusly funny. Toll booth, we're gonna fucking die. You get to see Bruce Willis on there, and he tries to jump his legs off and bounce back. And that's Bruce Willis. There's no fucking stunt double there. A face come flat of it. Hey, are you gonna die? Just there's so many funny fucking again, Bruce Willis foul mouth, fuck this, fuck that, fuck is a cool word to say. Obviously jumps over to Italy a lot, and then there's a lot of really random stuff with Richard E. Grant and his girlfriend, really are just weird. The sexual clips, the fucking I've got the power, and it's just what the fuck. Iganook as well, you know what I mean? The thieves and all that are quite good, and then obviously it gets to the castle, which obviously is a location at the start, and it's the demise of the fucking cereal bars and Kit Kat and the Bitman. Britton never watched it last night, and obviously Kit Kat mimics him, comes out of the box, and it's him and that, and he's just always got the cards, beware the blue wire. And then just the bit where Butterfinger just goes, you want me to rape them? And it's just what the fuck? And he just says it so casually, and you're like, fuck me. So bad. But I think everyone's just in on this and in on a good time. There's a lot. I remember a film called Castle Freak. Have you ever seen the review of Castle Freak we did? Every time I've seen Castle Freak, it just reminds us of Hudson Hawk. There's a lot of films, maybe in the 90s, crept over to Italy. Maybe there was some kind of, when they do a tax reimbursement or that kind of thing. But they just descend to Italy. It's just there's no fate in that. When Bruce Willis gets out of the coffin and goes to look out the window and it pans round, now that'll be done with CGI and green screen, but there's the Colosseum, that's the shot you need. Now you would probably have to pay somebody to get the fuck out of the apartment and pay them big time, or you know what I mean, or just find the right location for the right time, you know what I mean. It's one of those things where everything seems to come together. It's quite funny at the end when they're walking around with the missiles and firing them around and jokings, and the demise of Richard E. Grant getting moulded to death by the fucking machine. And I think it's a lost gem. I looked last night for the soundtrack. It's pretty expensive. Again though, people love or hate it, and I absolutely love it. So Michael Lehman did the film. Obviously it's a story by Bruce Willis, TriStar, Signature One. As I say, if you get a hold of the Blu-ray, it's got the audio commentary on. It's got the Journey featuring Hudson Hawk. The theme song by Dr. John, music video, still gallery in HD. But yeah, again, when stuff like this is released, it's great to see like a smaller label, because Signature One's a very limited label. It's not like when I put the collections at work, you've got Arrow Academy, Criterion, BFI just do loads of stuff you've never heard of. But again, they put a lot of effort into it. You've got the HME Premium Collection, which is my idea. You've got 88 Films, 88 Slasher, 101 Films Black Label and 101 Standard Label. You've then got I was called Shameless or Shamless, the yellow box spines, and then recently Second Sight. But there's not enough titles available of Signature One. So the Fan, and I believe they did Super Troopers as well. So they've got a few titles out there, few and far between, I would say. And they obviously keep everything very universal. The Fan is exactly the same as Spine and Writing. So again, taking these classic films and give them a very defined looking collection, if you collected them all. It's not the way to go with cult films, because like if that was a steelbook, pre-ordered definitely. Do you know what I mean? And also like something I think that collector's editions don't do enough of. Some do this, and it's very rare that they do it. And it's normally the super special edition versions, soundtracks in the special editions. You know what I mean? Because like I'm a massive fan of Scores, and like Scores, the vinyls come out, but then the CD doesn't. And then there's no digital code for it. And like films like Hudson Hawk, which obviously does have a soundtrack, which will be tied down to the same label. It is featured in the movie. Why they don't do the soundtrack? Because Hudson Hawk's one of them. Well, you've got the sing-alongs and yes, royalties, but then the royalties are tied to the film. So there's got to be an equal ground, you know what I mean? Instead of being lost to fuck wilderness. Like again, talking about Prayer the Roller Boys, the fact that score is completely lost in limbo and stuff like that. So if you've never seen Hudson Hawk, it is a what the fuck movie, but it's a good movie. But again, this is great to go what the fuck. So when like again, Bruce Willis hits big with Die Hard 2, and Hudson Hawk comes along and everyone's just like, whoa, we're on a tightrope here. Like, Eddie, what's the matter? This rope only holds 900 pounds. Like, that's it. That's Bruce Willis's career right there. And everyone's like, what the fuck's Hudson Hawk? And then obviously, boom, you had that massive riff back in the 95-ish era with Fifth Element, Die Hard with a Vengeance and stuff like that. So, again, a great film, great score, loads of gags, loads of great funny bits, a flat out funny ride. So if you haven't seen it, check it out, and I'll see you in the next part of the video. Hello, we're not there yet for the next Bruce Willis film. This morning I took the dog for a walk and I realised I need to get them 200 copies of Total Film magazine out the back of my car. That's been in there for a week now. And one of them is about 5 or 6 Empire magazines. Hudson Hawk coming out, and I couldn't believe it. So this is from 1991 July. So wow. So Hudson Hawk, Bruce Willis himself is on the front cover. And I had a quick flick through this in like Camel cigarettes, and I was expecting a big spread in the middle. Now unless I've completely missed it. I mean, look there. Don't give up on your day job. Marked for death. Seagal. Seagal was really a Michael Bean. Class action. Like that. Right. So yeah, it's in the middle somewhere. I am Robert De Niro in the middle there. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves coming out. It's around here actually. Backdraft. Terminator 2, The Ultimate Guide to the Summer. So it's part of this. Big Five. So the Big Five of the summer in 1991. Right. Terminator 2 is one. Backdraft is just a big billboard of Backdraft. It's a big board of Jungle Fever. Oh look, that's the film there. Immortal Thoughts, Bruce Willis, Demi Moore. That's pretty cool that that's actually turned up. That's the film I was mentioning of. I remember seeing it as a kid. I think Bruce Willis gets killed in it. As again being a fan of Bruce Willis. Oh, Bruce Willis can't die. I'm definitely dead in that one. Oscar coming out there. Next Big Five, the Big Five. It's Terminator 2. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves is there. We've got Jungle Fever down there. That's clever. Edward Scissorhands is coming out. The Butcher's Wife. Yeah, Big Five. So Big Five Backdraft, and Big Five is Hudson Hawk. So this was like billed to be like the next big film for Bruce Willis. What's the other Big Five? The fucking Rocketeer. So they're the Big Five of the summer. So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Secret of the Ooze was also out that summer, which I love. Went to the pictures to see that. Seen the Rocketeer in the pictures. We had Thelma and Louise. Let's just double check that that's the end of that. Yeah. So other films that year for fucking Hudson Hawk to be in the top 5, by the way. We've got Backdraft, Return to the Blue Lagoon, One Good Cop, New Jack City, fucking class film. Point Break. So there was the one they should have backed. Mobsters, FX2, Boys in the Hood, another breakout one. Toy Soldiers, Hudson Hawk though, starring Bruce Willis. That's it apparently. Hey Joel. 75 million and rising, out the 12th of June. Also that year we had obviously Robin Hood, Baron Fink, The Fisher King, Jungle Fever. So Terminator 2. Good Luck. That failed. Hot Shots, an important movie. That double headline was dropped. Drop Dead Fred. Now there was a fucking classic. Mannequin 2. On the Move. So quite a big summer actually with films, but that was it. So I couldn't really warrant why Hudson Hawk was really on the front, except for they were really pushing Hudson Hawk to be, look at that, young Einstein coming out, Hudson Hawk to be the next big thing, like, but unfortunately it's a flop, but I'm glad they made it. I am glad they made it. So yeah, this is just a random one. You can buy a handicap if you want. Go away, whoever you are. Stepped out. But yeah. Now, before the calm, before the storm, because I'm going to watch Cosmic Sin. It's been on this channel before. It's the one notoriously known of not that front cover, what looks like Iron Man 3, but the picture on the back. That is definitely Bruce Willis's head from Die Hard 4. Take a good look. I'm not going to do a whole wipe down the side of the screen. I've done that before when I bought this. And yeah, this was meant to be in the last one, so I hope you enjoy this video and I hope I enjoy Cosmic Sin. Just breathe. Cosmic Sin. Wow. I've just watched this. It's not very long. 88 minutes. Just creeps into the hour and a half. A couple of famous people in. The bad guy who takes over from Jigsaw and Saw's in this. He has that weird name. The guy from popped up, and this is one of the girls. Which is one of the girls? How do you sneeze? He was in Scary Movie. He was in Freddy vs. Jason. That guy, he was in it. So they've got these guys in. There's a lot at the start, and you look at some of the CGI and you're like, what the fuck? Bruce Willis worked for 2 days in this movie and he got paid £2 million. £1 million a day. And he's in quite a lot, I would say. Frank Grillo was the main star. So it jumps ahead in the future, and then it looks like it's really going to be, it borrows a little bit from Dog Soldiers, when two people are at this, like, there's nothing else around them, and like, oh, something's out there, and oh, no, it's not, okay, it is, and then bang, 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 there's definitely something out there, and this thing walks up and has them. And they get possessed, sort of like the aliens borrow their skin, so all the humans have basically got crap all over their faces to make them look like zombies. And then you think, like, it shows you the city, and it's weird. It shows you a shot of the city in the background, a car driving past, even a fucking deer CGI'd on the sides. They're trying to say, like, ooh, world's great and all this, and all the shit's flying around above them. And then they obviously get to this base, and like these things they brought back in the quarantine, and like, oh shit, something's not fucking right here, and it's all about to go down. Bruce Willis just so happens to have a reputation, be back in the bar having a drink, and it all just kicks off while this is all happening on this military base. So they're all running around, few of them get shot. Some of the footage looks alright. Bruce Willis definitely does look like you get his money's worth from. You know what I mean? He doesn't go above and beyond. And then they all end up with these suits on. And they're all running around the base trying to kill off these things. Let's get, alright, what's going on here? The soundtrack seems reused. I was trying to put my finger in all the time. Then like the baddies turn up and they look like Darksiders. You know, they've got these big medieval looking fucking creatures running around. And then I think I blinked, because the next thing you know, they are flying through space in these suits like fucking bullets. Do you know what I mean? And like, I was like, where the fuck's the helmet? What's going on here? What the fuck's happening? And the CGI looked terrible, and I was trying, no one's put it on there on IMDb yet, but I want to put this out there. It looked like they've borrowed footage or renders from Dead Space, because there's a bit where they're flying through this two ships split apart, and I was like, that totally reminds me of Dead Space. And like Bruce Willis is like flying through space, and then they get separated, and then they land on this new planet, and the first person they bumped into was all human, and she's in the war as well. And I was like, could this not have just took place in England? You know what I mean? I mean, they've literally, what's going on here? The end of the day, they end up running around. It's really confusing about what's going on, who's left dead. Frank's circling the fucking planet, by the way. He hasn't got to the floor. And then Bruce Willis turns up on this fucking platform to go, I had something to say to you. And then there's a lot of slow motion in here, and there's dog chewing a bone. And then you see his body falling from space, fades to black, then Bruce Willis is back in the bar saying, right, it's time to buy you that drink. Implicating that now she's dead because she was one of the aliens, and he's dead. Now they can have their life together that they always wanted. And I was like, what the fuck? So this goes under what the fuck, because, you know, what it's packaged as. I mean, they could have just had this cast, stripped it back, had a bit of a western, spent the money on the set. You know, this is basically like, you know, there's a bit of an invasion going on here, but there's obviously Gears of War type suits, Darksiders, you know what I mean? So there's definitely been a game fan collaboration somewhere in here, but fuck my life, man, Jesus. I mean, Bruce Willis, if Bruce Willis is getting paid £2 million for 2 days work, probably never fucking watches a movie, hence why they had to reuse a clip from Die Hard on the back. Hey, paycheck Willis. So this goes into what the fuck, because it's a paycheck. What the fuck for Cosmic Sin? It should be called Skin, because like there's no sin in it. They're wearing suits and the aliens are wearing skins, so it should be called Cosmic Skin. First contact has been made. It's war. Aye. See you in the next part of the video. Hello and welcome back to the good, the bad and the what the fucks. It's the day after I watched Cosmic Sin. I'm still positive for COVID. Great, this chair's starting to sweet. I needed to recover after Cosmic Sin, like yesterday, literally. So I watched some of that. When I think about Bruce Willis, is one of the, definitely in the top first five I should say, I ever saw of him. And obviously being a big fan of Die Hard, then seeing this, we're talking about The Last Boy Scout. That's the Laserdisc. Is that a motherfucking Laserdisc? Yes it is, Sean. Not going to get out because it's really nice condition. This Laserdisc doesn't fall out. Front cover's interesting. Damon Wayans and Bruce Willis on there. Damon Wayans is holding the American football down here, or a football in America. The goal is to survive. Bruce Willis with his little gun. Bruce Willis looks really slim on the picture, but in the movie he looks like he's carrying a bit of pounds, but part of his character. On the Blu-ray release, it's available on Blu-ray, they cropped the football out, you know what I mean? So the movie starts bang boom with Friday night's a great night for football. Music video very upbeat, screams like Americana graphics, especially if you're a fan of WrestleMania from that time as well. Some of the stuff they did a good job on that. Now this is a Tony Scott film as well. Tony Scott had done stuff like, you know, Beverly Hills Cop 2 and stuff like that, so he was getting the push in the right direction. Joel Silver, obviously producer of Die Hard, and I believe it's Alan Silvestre. The music is Shane Black, Predator writer, Joel Silver, Tony Scott. I just wanted to see who did the music, but it's not all the music's probably not going to be music and components. It's not. It's by Michael Kahn. Screams Die Hard. Anyway, and then it cuts to Billy Blanks. You know, gets a phone call from the evil Milo, and he just runs down the football field, drenched with rain, starts fucking shooting everyone to get the finish line, then fucking just go poof. as a kid, that was a very striking image, Billy, and it's just wow. Like that sets us tone. And then Bruce Willis wakes up and he's got the squirrel next to him. Now Damon Wayans, I'm a big fan of a movie called More Money, which obviously Damon Wayans was in Beverly Hills Cop. Almost Miss Him If You Don't Look. Obviously he's the middle brother of the Wayans with Keenan. Then you got Sean and Marlon. More Money introduced the world view to Marlon as well. If they'd made this movie now, they probably would cast an American football player in this role. It's very well played comedy duo. Halle Berry's in here as well. Kim Coates is in there, which reunite with Bruce Willis in Hostage years later. There's a few people you recognise in Tony Scott's ensemble, like backing crew and all that kind of things. I think the music's great. I think the movie is very, very funny. Bruce Willis is absolutely on fire. Damon Wayans, these guys just worked really well. Debbie Harry, the little girl who went on to be quite famous from, was in Halloween. She's in there as well. There's a lot of F-bombs. It's very crude. There's some dark tones in it, but it's just great. It's great fun. It's very violent when it wants to be. It has a horrendous death at the end when Milo falls. The football, Americana football at the time, it's in there, but it doesn't overplay it. It's not showing you, because sometimes I personally find it hard to follow American football rules, especially when they hit them up. It doesn't do that. The football's there in the background. There's some great stunts, there's some great explosions in it. As I say, it's just so fucking funny. And to be honest with you, with The Good, the Bad, and the What the Fuck's of Bruce Willis, the last two, I'd just seen Alpha Dog, and I don't really need to watch Loaded Weapon 1 once again just to explain Bruce Willis's cameo, just to wrap that video up. I totally forgot I even owned Last Boy Scout on Laserdisc, and then I remembered, I've got it on Laserdisc, Last Boy Scout, because I not long bought, I think it was only about 6 months ago, bought Last Boy Scout on Blu-ray, and I'd watched it, and fucking every time I watch it, I love it. And I've been sitting here all day, like, just transferring file after file after file and stuff I've got to do, and I'm just transferring another file now. And I put it on, and I just loved it. It's just been playing in the background. It's one of these films where you don't need to pause it, but I was pausing it when I was leaving the room to do a few things, because it just captures you. The story, if you haven't seen it, basically Bruce Willis gets caught into he's a private detective, so he takes a job off his best friend who's sleeping with his wife, and then meanwhile Damon Wayans, who's Jimmy Dix, has been suspended from the NFL, and his girlfriend Corey, played by Halle Berry, says, I can get your job back, and he's going, how's that? She gets mowed down with trail guns, because Bruce Willis has been kidnapped himself. He gets himself stuck in with a big fucking looking pimp motherfucker with a hat, as he calls it. So basically they end up teaming up to find out who's killed his girlfriend, who killed his friend, who's sleeping with his wife, and there's a lot of funny jokes behind that, and it's all about a little bit of politics, but not too heavily into politics. There's a bit of backstory, but yeah, it's a great movie. As I say, it keeps getting released. It hasn't had a special edition. It's not something that would probably get chucked out now, or even if it did come out now, I'd rebuy it. It's one of these ones that came out very fast on Blu-ray. A lot of Warner Brothers titles have fell out on the HMV label, but a lot now anyone's looking for anything. This is an absolute gem of a movie. Milo, who unfortunately died. Not my cat, bless him, he died as well. The actor, he plays him, he'd been in stuff like Biodome, popped up in River's Edge, funny enough, what I was watching last night. Pops up in a lot of movies, but he's a sinister bad guy. He's also in the video game Double Switch. He's just a creepy bad guy, great bad guy, with an awesome death. And also, off a completely different rant, me and Carl McSorley sat down and did a podcast last night for Con Air. And when Nicolas Cage uppercuts the guy at the start, set up him going to prison, I was stalling on the podcast. I stalled a few times. Carl very carried us through the podcast. We're obviously having COVID, and sometimes I've just got to go off and cough. But I was like, who gets uppercutted in the face and dead? And it's like and that's it's Last Boy Scout. I remember a lot of people when they were at school talking about, did you see me uppercut him in the nose? Let us try it. Shoot him when you die. You know what I mean? It was Kim Coates. Touch me again, I'll kill you. Wham! Just Like, there's loads of jokes, even with the hand puppet, he's going, no, fat. Yeah, it's just a great movie. So if you've never seen Last Boy Scout with Bruce Willis, it's fucking awesome. It's up there. It would be, I mean, you would have to get a pen and paper and have to watch all Bruce Willis's, but that is in a top 10 of Bruce Willis's, and it's near that top of it every time for just how good it is, and it works really well. Right, next part of the video. Hello and welcome back to entry number 5. I'm determined now to do every entry in this chair. Just put the camera on, roll with it. So I've just watched, today is my first Bruce Willis film. I might even get a second one in today. Die Hard 2. Die Harder. Which technically is a Christmas film. It starts with Christmas, it ends with a Christmas song, Let It Snow, Let It Snow. It's Christmas themed, it happens at Christmas, so yeah, it's a Christmas film too. Rennie Howland comes in to a director, and he's done some great movies. He's done Mindhunters, he's done Deep Blue Sea, he's done Cliffhanger. Great director, and I think, like, you know, I think a lot of people go, oh, Die Hard 1 is the same as Die Hard 2. No, it's not. It's never classed as, I mean, to me personally, the next best sequel to Die Hard is Die Hard 3, then 2, then 4, then 5. You know, but obviously I'm trying to put one Die Hard film in these, so Die Hard was the first of the volume, so it just made sense to get one in here. I've put it on, it's been on the background, I've watched it, I love it. Now, anyone who follows me knows I have a massive problem with CG fire, especially the new films, and the fire effects in this. This film is a sequel, is fast-tracked as this would have been, because Die Hard was a massive hit. Bruce Willis feels like John McClane because, you know, we've just seen him very similar. It's not years later, he's got his head shaved. It's here, it's now. Same kind of score, same kind of tone, 18 rated, although I believe my DVD is my VHS I've still got to 15. The movie itself, you know, it's one of those ones where, wow, you know, you just would not get away with that now, especially how controlled airports are and stuff like that. If anyone's seen my show Welcome to Aotearoa, when I go back to New Zealand a couple of years ago, when my mum gets pulled over in Bali with a bullet in a bum bag by mistake because my stepdad's a gameskeeper, but the fact that we got from Newcastle to Dubai all the way down to Bali, and what's this? Have you got a gun? Watch that series. It's got some gems in it, but like, we were like, what the hell? I mean, it wasn't, you know, it was more like a pellet rifle and all that, but like, security's just shit hot, man. It's just crazy times that. But you know, this film hits the ground run, and Bruce Willis is just on cue. I think it's a well written film. I think obviously fast tracked. A lot of people you'll recognise in this. John Leguizamo and Robert Patrick are two unknown henchmen in it. There's a couple of the cast from Coming to America in it. Will Sadler, whatever you want to call himself, you know, Death from Bill and Ted, he plays you know, he's just there to fill a void. He's not really an antagonist, he's just like, this is the plan. It's just John McClane gets in there. A lot of the cast as well from this and Die Hard do appear in a film called Trespass with Ice Cube and Ice-T, as well as Bill Paxton and William Shatner again. Will Slatner, oh, what a fucking curveball his name is. Anyway, some great, obviously, yippee-ki-yay in there, some great explosions, especially when he gets ejected from the the aeroplane. You know, a lot of cold, a lot of snow in this one. You know, Bruce Willis, wrong place and the wrong time. How can the same thing happen to the same guy twice? The idea that his wife on an airplane is believable until fucking Walter Prick from Ghostbusters turns up. You just don't need that. They could have had like another antagonist. They could have swapped the roles. I think personally swapped the roles for him to be on the floor trying to report, and then the new girl on the aeroplane wanted to be. They could have dealt with that. The whole phones on the aeroplane, especially when Bruce Willis is trying to ring her back like hello. I'd seen it very early on. I think by the time I'd seen Die Hard 2 was out already. So seeing Die Hard 2, and you get exactly what you get with it. It's a great sequel in my opinion. It's a very solid sequel. You know, it's as a Die Hard series. This you can see when you obviously made the third one. The trilogy to me is so strong for the fourth, but then obviously the fifth we'll get there. But as a follow-up to the first one, it's great. You just, yeah, John McClane's just in the same shit's happened to him the same year. People believed it for Macaulay Culkin, you know, Home Alone. They're essentially, you know, again, you know, take what worked but again, this is where I said with the Die Hards, Die Hard 3 is just takes it to another level. Die Hard 3 to me personally is one of the best trilogies, like entry into a trilogy that there is, you know what I mean? Because normally by the time a film gets to a trilogy, it's downward spiral from there. And you can look at a load of different franchises for that. But like John McClane as a character, it's you're just in for the popcorn ride with it. Films like Striking Distance and Hostage, where Bruce Willis has transversed into a cop into a different situations, he does it so fucking well. And in this, he just fucking owns it. He again, there'll be a lot of pressure to deliver. And Bruce Willis, all his screen times and all the shots like that, it's just really well executed. I think everyone, even the guy who plays the controller of the tower, he's a real life control tower guy, and I remember that much from Rennie Housen's comedy, because the guy's really interested in comedy tracks, to know that he casts really well. But like, you just hear him and go fucking hell, like you believe like he's like just perfect casting. As I say, there's a lot of bad guys you recognize, and it is funny in certain ways and all that, but like the location as well, man, like there's so, like, you just wouldn't get away with that now, and there's so many extras involved and so much going on. There's so much carnage going on for no reason and stuff like that. But what a fucking movie. It's a great sequel in my opinion, and definitely a Christmas film. So that was entry number 5. So I have no idea what's next. No idea. Thanks for watching. See you in the next bit. Hello! I'm still in my chair. So last night I started watching, and this morning I finished watching The Expendables. Officially the first ever Blu-ray I bought. I still remember buying Expendables. I went to the pictures with Jack to see it, and I still remember when it was one of the reasons I converted to Blu-ray, especially the extra features. I just remember the Blu-ray player I got from the place, it's the sell-off place, some of the worst customer service you're ever going to experience. I remember putting Expendables in and the logo freezing and just hearing on repeat after repeat, Drive Angry, shot in 3D, I'll see you in 3 months, the Nicolas Cage fiasco. I just remember IMDb, and I think to me personally IMDb was very fresh on the mobile apps maybe at the time, and then just reading on IMDb, being a big fan of Stallone and all that, this Expendables, the fact that Arnold Schwarzenegger at this time hadn't been in anything for ages, the fact that Bruce Willis and Stallone were all credited in it, well as Jason Statham, who I think really is the one of the main core backbones of this franchise. He's the new generation, and especially all the other cast they bring in. Jet Li, Eric Roberts, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Gary Daniels as the bad guys. I always thought Eric Roberts was the bad guy, or the henchman bad guy in Expendables, but I wasn't the specialist, but I wasn't really best of the best raised, so I know he has franchises from that. But this is written and directed by Stallone as well, which pretty much comes off the back end of what he did with Rocky Balboa and Rambo. So this one's, it's an 18 rated. A lot of it looks like old school practical stunts. A lot of the people who worked on the tournament had worked on this, so there were people who used some of this on their resumes. I know JJ Perry, who was in Kill on the Board in my movie, actually is a massive part of the Expendables 2 and 3, as well as now being a massive part of the Fast and Furious franchise. And it just seems like anyone would want to be on this movie. As I say, it was all kept hush hush. When it comes to Bruce Willis, it's kind of it's great that they finally did that, after years of you'd always see the Planet Hollywood stuff and a picture of the three and all that, but never see them within a movie. I just need to stop recording on one side of the screen for a second. But yeah, it's a fact that it's Stallone and Statham really carry the movie. It sets it up. They keep it away from the American public eye, kind of, so they can film it all on low budget, but obviously utilize the power of some of the alpha stunt teams and stuff that are around. But the scene we're talking about is Bruce Willis as Schwarzenegger, and it is a nice handy bit. Schwarzenegger was never the best actor. He got a lot better in his later career. Bruce Willis can deliver, and Bruce Willis, his IMDb picture is definitely taken from this time when Bruce Willis has got this weird look on his face. He can come across as a prick, and Bruce Willis is a bad guy, and this is one way it's like, you know, and obviously there's a lot of conspiracy about Bruce Willis within the third one. What happened to the third one? Harrison Ford came out, and we've talked about Bruce Willis pretty much £1 million a day. But like, you know, it's very funny. He wants to be president. It was a nice thing, but it was a proper letdown at the movie. I mean, the film itself is good. It's you know, it's old school action. There's a lot of squid work in here. All the CGI looks really good. There's a lot of new, old generation. Yeah, but it still feels quite, you know, low budgety, old school in a way. But it's really funny. I believe the second one, in my opinion, is the better one, even though I'm a massive Wesley Snipes, and him, who was meant to be in this, would actually be in the third one. Scott Adkins should have had his name in the top billing of Expendables 2 as well, but we got what we were meant to get in this one, I think, because the whole airport scene with Bruce Willis, Schwarzenegger, and Stallone is just fucking brilliant. But for this, you know, it's a what the fuck movie, and a good movie. Again, it's, you know, Bruce Willis is obviously on the front cover. He gets the and credit. Arnold Schwarzenegger gets his name on it as well. But yeah, I put it in the what the fuck because it's like, what the fuck is Expendables? Whoa, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? But again, Bruce Willis, you know, just that one little scene there. He doesn't even pop up at the end there. But yeah, a little bit of a rant about the Expendables, and that's entry number 6. So we're doing really well for this. We are. See you in the next part of the video. Okay, I'm back. A couple of seconds later, I've just moved the camera angle slightly. This is a throwaway one because if you follow this series, you'll know fine well that very recently Pulp Fiction was in the Samuel Jackson's The Good, the Bad, and the What the Fucks. And when you think about Pulp Fiction, and you think about Bruce Willis from the hype of Die Hard to like the boom, bang, boom of '95, you need to talk about Pulp Fiction. Because Bruce Willis, obviously, and Bruce Willis seems to be like one of the only times he has worked with Tarantino. Bruce Willis does pop up in 4 Rooms, which some of that, you know, might pop up down the line, just like Beavis and Butthead Do America might pop up down the line. But I am trying to utilize the films I've got. But when it comes to Pulp Fiction is definitely one of the greatest movies of the 90s for what it was, and for the door it opened, especially low budget, and obviously boomed and banned up Miramax, who were going to produce a lot of movies. You know, it's an ensemble cast, and although it's ensemble, it's also like sort of John Travolta really has a comeback. Una Thurman really gets a foot in the map finally. Bruce Willis is in there. Vin Rames is on the rise anyway. And then Samuel Jackson, you know, this literally just Samuel Jackson is one of the greatest actors ever born and ever been in front of a camera. You know, the guy's a workaholic, and you know, like Bruce Willis in this is Butch, who's like, you know, the boxer who's, you know, like, you know, he has his own little story about the ring and stuff like that, which when you're watching the movie and he has just with the whole thing, if you haven't seen it, and just how it bounces around and the samurai swords, and you know, obviously there's the horrible scene in the shop with the coppers and, you know, all that going on there. But Bruce Willis at the time, you know, really didn't have to. Like, again, if you think about where he was in his career, didn't really have to do this. Tarantino, yes, it had a big hit with Reservoir Dogs, you know, underground hit, but like Bruce Willis didn't have to. But Bruce Willis is that fucking smart and knows what filmmakers are all about and stuff like that, that he went, yeah, let's fucking do this. Sorry, I'm just looking at Expendables, and Garza's Guard 1 and Garza's Guard 2 are Antonio Rodrigo Guru Mantra, the same fucking... What the fuck? Hang on. That's gonna sound horrible, but like, do you know what I mean? That just really caught me off the guard. What the fuck is going on there? Yeah, totally like guerrilla filming. But yeah, Pulp Fiction, as I say, Bruce Willis didn't have to do it, he did it, and you know, he's really good in it, you know what I mean? And at the time, you know, he gets the and Bruce Willis credit, which is already a very powerful thing. He was always pictured, you know, as a, like, there's a lot of, I mean, cutouts and stuff like that. It pops up in Grosse Point Blank and stuff, doesn't it, in the background, when there's a cutout of, you know, the picture was always Jackson, Travolta, Una Thurman and Bruce Willis as like, these are the main full cast, but it has a massive ensemble cast and twisty stories. But say the only other thing Bruce Willis I think's worked in with Tarantino since that is the Grindhouse films, you know what I mean? So Pulp Fiction's a great movie, It's pretty long, but it's pretty easy. First time viewing, just don't know what's going to go on. I think when John Travolta gets absolutely annihilated by Bruce Willis with a machine gun, you think, what the fuck? Especially when John Travolta turns up. But it's a great storytelling, and you can see why Tarantino became the force he is. But like at the end of the day, when you look at actors who needed to be in that movie, but actors who didn't need to be in the movie, but actors who wanted to be in that movie, it's kind of like, Bruce Willis at the time didn't have to be in it, but he sees a good script, and Reservoir Dogs is a hell of a film to go, look, I want to make a new film, this is my first film, and everyone's like, ooh, you know what I mean, sky's the limit, So yeah, that is pretty much a throwaway, but it's because I pretty much only watched Pulp Fiction, maybe it's less than a month ago for the Samuel Jackson ones, but when you talk about Bruce Willis, he's just, he's fucking everywhere, man, he's fucking everywhere. Right, see you in the next part of the video. What's that look like to you? The Assassination. Intense. Sniper rifle guy on the side. People running. An explosion. Melissa Barron. Reese Daniel Thomason, who's pretty much the star of the movie. And Bruce Willis. Down there. Now to me personally, Bruce Willis kind of looks like the president there. Looks like he's going to get assassinated. So this is the one I bought at the boot sale. Oh yeah, $4 for £1, man. Blu-ray wasn't even opened. Fuck my life. This is a total what the fuck movie, because I've just put it on and I'm like, has anyone seen a movie called Detention? That is pretty much weird. But this is all about, it all happens in a high school, and it's all like a posh high school, and it's all narrated by the guy who wants to be in the newspaper, and it's all twists and turns and conspiracy. Bruce Willis is the president of the school, and he's just like, America, and don't fuck the students. And it's all about, this kid trying to get the story, but then it's twisted. There's frat parties, there's people you recognise, the guy who plays Penguin from Gotham's in there, and there's, the sexual innuendos there, there's teen parties. Meanwhile, Bruce Willis is walking around trying to find out who robbed his safe of all the test papers. Does that even sound like the assassination? No one gets assassinated. A guy goes a bit nuts with a spray paint gun. Paintball gun, that's the one I was looking for, but totally what the fuck. Bruce Willis is quite funny when he's in it. You keep that guy behind me whacking off, and the guy behind him's just like, how did he know? But fucking hell, you talk about fuck, what the fuck? I was not prepared to be sitting down watching a comedy set in posh school in America. I was expecting Bruce Willis get shot and be half in it, and like Extraction where he's hardly in it. It's fucking totally the opposite. So it's called The Assassination. Should be a comedy for how much comedy's in it, but it's all about who's stood it. It's totally packaged really well. Stay sharp, say nothing, study everyone. There is something or someone rotten at Dollivan's High School, and Bobby is determined to uncover the dirty truth. And it's all about who did it, which friends, which ones taking drugs, which ones, it's what the fuck. So that is totally what the fuck movie, The Assassination. Die Hard 2's all the way down here, but North is there. I'm gonna have to watch this one on VHS. Yes, that's Bruce Willis, a massive pink bunny rabbit on the front cover. Here we go. Doing that, didn't I? I need to use the power source, so I will use the VCR to upload some more footage, so we'll get there enough. Stop. Rewind. Okay, so dun dun dun. Be kind, rewind. Always remember to rewind your VHS. When that's on a small screen, right, and you're not paying full attention, you're not look at the quality of that. VHS still fine. It's perfectly fine. And strange enough about North, this is an original one, this. I actually bought this from Global Video in concert for $2.99 on the 8th December 1996. So yeah, there's a few of me VHSs like Cuffs being one. I think Rivals another, which I believe got set on fire in a video a long time ago. So let's talk about North. Now this comes along around Die Hard 2 again. Bruce Willis before the 1995 hit. I just sat and watched it there, and I haven't seen it for a long time. North's availability on DVD or You know, it looks at Netflix. It just seems to have disappeared. It's a Rob Reiner film. Excuse me. Rob Reiner, director of Stand By Me. He's obviously done. There we go. Golf. Director of Stand By Me. Great director. Massive ensemble cast. Now Bruce Willis is on the front cover. That's Elijah Wood. This chair's starting to creak. Elijah Wood. Dan Aykroyd's in there. Rebecca McIntyre's in there. The bad guy from Die Hard 2. Die Hard's in there. John Lovitz is in there. Alan Arquette's in there. Kathy Bates is in there as an Eskimo. There's a lot of people in it. Story is North is basically this kid who feels underappreciated. He's a sealer and all this stuff, and he basically thinks his parents don't care about him, and he's basically a bit down on his luck, and meets Bruce Willis, who's a giant pink bunny rabbit. Now, as you would say, this film is a what the fuck movie. It's a really good film. Now, Bruce Willis narrates it all the way through it, and tells you the story of North. But basically, North's had enough of his parents and decides to divorce them in a way, and basically has until his next Labor Day to basically find new parents, and his parents all over the world, John Ritter being one of them as well. So he basically just heads out there. He's like, right. He goes and meets all these different people. So there's a family who are in Hawaii, but every time he meets a family and you think it's going good, there's always like a curveball from just to say no. Like the family in Hawaii is basically want to use North as the poster boy to come to Hawaii and have an octopus pulling down his fucking crack. He's getting my crack. You know, so it's, for a PG, it's got some witty little bits in there. The Eskimos, who's also the guy, he's on lots of films, he's also in Diet of Vengeance, Graham somebody, I believe his name is. North's a bit angry that they just take old people out to the sea and let them die, and you know, there's a lot of like dark tones in some of these. Dan Aykroyd just wants to beef them up and eat them. The guy from Die Hard, who just like turns up in the army, she's just like, floor it, get away from him as quick as possible. The Chinese want to cut off his hair. Every time North appears and he's struggling to go, oh, is this the family for me, Bruce Willis turns up. He's a guy on the beach of Hawaii with his metal detector. He's a cowboy, and Dan Aykroyd's down there. He's the Eskimo sledge guy. He's a stand-up comedian. He's the FedEx guy. So Bruce Willis is like the guardian angel all the way through to the very end, where, you know, it's a coming-of-age movie. In a sense, I've seen it really young. I mean, I still remember the posters for North. This is peak time of me going to the pictures. And you know, Bruce Willis, he's genius. He just nails everything in the hell out. Elijah Wood, you know, finally gets a breakout role. He would pretty much take on roles. You could see this role maybe is being pushed towards Macaulay Culkin. Well, Elijah Wood, Macaulay Culkin would be in The Good Son a couple of years around this time as well. And Elijah Wood has not only been a solid child actor, even from like weird random appearances, to the fact that he's a massive producer, and you know, he is willing to take a risk on a lot of the films he does, and you know what I mean, he's just a working man's actor. Some crazy ass shit, mind, especially The Greasy Strangler. But yeah, for a film, it's great. It's really funny. It's at that time of like the films like Dennis, The Addams Family coming out, when there was a massive flow towards kids movies, but like really well made kids movies. Because I think the story like North now probably would be pushed in a more digital animation side, but again, massive ensemble cast, great director behind it all, and Elijah Wood carries it really well, and Bruce Willis, as I say, just as a pink fucking Easter bunny. But just remember, or as you wind your VHS. See you in the next part of the video. Hello and welcome back to The Good, The Bad and The What The Fucks, and I've done this entire Good, The Bad, The What The Fucks sitting in the same chair. What's creaking? That or this? Right, okay, so last night for number 10 I watched G.I. Joe 2 Retaliation. So I picked up the box set of G.I. Joe of all three about 2 months ago, and it took a while to get around to this, pretty much all the way through the last Good, The Bad and What The Fucks for Bruce Willis. The first G.I. Joe I enjoy. Stephen Sommers obviously did The Mummy, he's done Van Helsing, Deep Rising, and the first one's packed, you know, Tatum Chayton, Marlon Wayans, Dennis Quaid's in there, Joseph, Loving Hewitt. Oh, for fucking, you know what I meant. The top of my new gun. You know, and obviously Brendan Fraser pops up, and Arnold Vosloo pops up, who was the Mummy and also Darkman. And the film's just a full-out popcorn movie. Obviously they have the suits on, they're going around Paris, the big Paris thing, and then the climactic again, and I'm like, he's Cobra Commander, there's the double twist, and there's Destro there, and, you know, like, Doctor Who's got the thing stuck to his head, and, you know, it feels massive, and Stephen Somerhalder does that, it's massive, it's all massive, and Stephen's not done much. He did Odd Thomas, but doesn't seem to have done much after that. He just seems to have enough. So anyway, first G.I. Joe, not too bad. And then the second one comes along, and what a fucking curveball, right? First off, half of the cast, maybe 80% of the cast, do not come back. Dennis Quaid's not there. Marlon Wayans isn't there. The two main girls from it aren't there. Ray Park returns as Snake Eyes. The guy who played Stormy Shadow returns. Jonathan Pryce returns because that's a cliffhanger because he's the president imposted. Arnold Vosloo has a small cameo. There's no Brendan Fraser because that was a glorified cameo in the first one. But like, the entire G.I. Joe crew are not there. We've got Tatum Chin. You know, we haven't got any of the other sidekicks, the tech gadgets, you know, the muscle guys and all this. They're just not there. Even though they're like full-on Stephen Summers alumni, and they're like, well, he's not doing it, we're not doing it, and you know what I mean. But like, what do you do in that situation? This is Hasbro. You cast the fucking Rock, you know, Dwayne Johnson. Like, what a fucking curveball into a sequel. And at this time, you got to think, like, The Rock did stuff like The Journey 2, and that, you know, he's not afraid to go like, I'll do it. You know what I mean? It's exposure, it's money, it's pay. It's like, you get paid for that, you do that, you get exposure there. It's all like, this guy has played it so fucking well, and I shit you not, I still am front runner of why The Rock was not in the tournament. It could have happened. I was sitting right next to Kelly Hu, and we were talking about it, and it was, it almost happened. But anyway, off that rant. So, you bring in The Rock, right? And then you don't bring most of the cast back. Like Channing Tatum, whatever you want to call him, he's in it, right? And I understand that they put more scenes with him and The Rock in because they worked well. But like, it's like, the film's like almost like a different fucking breed. So like, it's more grounded for a start. Cobra Commanders in Destro are again in cryo sleep. So the idea is to get them. Storm Shadow, who you look is clearly dead in the first one, but he's not. Meanwhile, Snake Eyes is in a completely different film on the other side of the world for 2 months filming a mental fucking fight scene on the Himalayas on the fucking side of the mountains and stuff like that. It's like, what the fuck's going on here? And they bring in a few new characters, but I ain't up to like the G.I. Joes. They did a mask, I would maybe tiptoe around, but someone needs to fucking do the Visionaries. So they started bringing in new characters, hence why The Rock comes in as Roadblock. And they bring in other characters like Flint, who's jumping around. And they've got Lady J. And then they've got like Mouse, who I was like, that's him. That's little Timmy from Jurassic Park. And even someone says little Timmy at one point is like a joke. And it's, that's him. But like, it's so grounded, and like they get totally wiped out. And there's no tech gadgets at the start, and it's all like, oh, who did that? Is the president real? And they're all about like Cobra Commander makes his return. Like Jason Gordon-Levitt, that's his name. You know what I mean? He's meant to be Cobra Commander. He's not. It's a completely different actor, but they're the full-on suit there. They're like, look at Destro and go, nah, you're out the band. It's like, we'll fucking not bother. The actors aren't coming back. We're not bothering with them. Ray Stevenson comes in. Obviously, the guy is famous for Punisher. He's been in loads of stuff though. He's in like Cliffhanger, and he's not in Cliffhanger. That's definitely not him. But Ray Stevenson is in as Punisher's Firefly. So there's like, you know, they bring in more people. So this is all going on, and it's a whole like, there's 3 of them left, and they're trying to get across the world, and they're trying to do the secret agent kind of James Bond kind of thing. And then, fuck my life, Bruce Willis turns up as the original Joe, and you're like, what the fuck? Is this meant to be? This is clearly meant to be Dennis Quaid. Like, clearly meant to be Dennis Quaid. And I believe around the same time this happening, Bruce Willis wasn't in Expendables 3, so Bruce Willis turns up, and he's just got guns all over the house. And he's just like, they won't let me I'm going to re-enlist. So next thing you know, you've got The Rock and Bruce Willis going full, and this is the point where you go, what the fuck? You know, and Bruce Willis like storms the castle with him, and it's just like, the fuck, pull that one out of the fucking bag, didn't you? And then Commander Commander just fucks off. There's not really, you know, Arnold Vosloo has a bit of a turn in the story, you know. The stuff with Snake Eyes is always good, but like, it's just a total, I mean, it's a total, it just goes like that, you know. I thought the original one was fine, you know, in like, this one, it's just totally like, you cast, I mean, Tatum Tatum gets killed, like, if you haven't seen it already, he gets killed within the first like 15 minutes, he's on the front cover, he's the star of the first one, and you just don't see it come, because The Rock is and The Rock, like, but he gets, you know, killed, and at first it's like, did he just die? And he does, and it's like, it would have meant more if it was Marlon Wayans, and like, if it was the same cast, and you didn't see that coming. Do you know what I mean? And like, these are the guys, like, again, like with these kind of films, it's when they sort of replace the cast of the Transformers series, then carry on in a different direction, then bring some of the cast back. And you know that Shia LaBeouf left for complication reasons, and the whole Megan Fox thing and all that kinds of stuff going on. But like, you need to invest in stuff like this, and why they don't slap them down to fucking very solid contracts, I do not fucking know. Especially Hasbro. I mean, if Hasbro was going to try and do more than one Battleship, the fucking mental. Battleship was fine as one movie, but with G.I. Joe, they're looking for a franchise, and G.I. Joe could have came into the Transformers. That world could have been expanded. But like, looking at like stuff like how The Mask hasn't like ended up being a film, or Visionaries. I think Visionaries happens to be, like, on paper, it just disappeared. But like CGI and stuff like that now, what they could do with that franchise, especially how awesome the fucking toys were back in the day. But yeah, it was, when it comes to Bruce Willis, it's a what the fuck. It's like a paycheck Willis, but then it's not Willis, it's a glorified but he's with Bruce Willis and Dwayne Johnson. It's just a fucking proper mental, like, why the fuck's Bruce Willis in this? Do you know what I mean? It's clearly meant to be Dennis Quaid. So yeah, so that's been 10 movies for Bruce Willis. I was hoping to get around to The Jackal, and Last Man Standing and stuff like that, because they are ones I really do enjoy. The guy, as much as I've coined it, I'm not saying I've trademarked or anything, Paycheck Willis, I think like, when you look at these films he just turns up and does and gets paid, you can't fucking fault him for that, because when you see the raw talent in, not just the talent in the action, the talent in North, he's just class. Hudson Hawk, he's funny as fuck. The Die Hard's just so good. He's such a good actor, but fuck me, he has done some random fucking stuff. Yeah, I just get at work and I look around and I see like Midnight Switch Kiss and all this weird stuff, or Once Upon a Time in Venice, and it just, everywhere you look, Bruce Willis the kid, and you're like, oh, Bruce Willis is there, and it's like, oh my god, Bruce Willis is just everywhere you look. So yeah, this has been The Good, The Bad and The What The Fucks, Volume 2 for Bruce Willis. Not be doing a Volume 3 straight away. I'll be taking a break from The Good, The Bad and The What The Fucks there, because I must focus on my Barcelona footage. But no, he is a one of a kind, definitely. Thanks for watching. There's no outtakes. Goodbye for now.